And then in news that I'd term as, the world sucks sometimes. Can't think of a better title for this segment.
Sometimes.
But I'm a positive, optimistic person fundamentally. So an actual emulator that we use to emulate, and we use this emulator to emulate Bonk's adventure. So byuu, or as he wanted to be referred to as Nia, he's actually retired from the emulation community. And for me, I would regard him as probably the greatest emulator programmer ever. So he's the guy, I've actually spoken about him before. He's the guy who created Higan and BSNES. And these emulators were almost 100% accurate emulators of the Super Nintendo. And he went to the point of actually getting the physical cartridges, dumping them, comparing like pure like inputs and outputs, and he's just a freak of nature. And he actually started to emulate the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64, and he was about 80% the way through. And from what I saw on his post on Twitter, it was like he was well along. Like it could have actually become the best Nintendo 64 and PlayStation emulators, which they sorely need those emulators in that space. But what's happened is it's a really weird story, and I don't know all the details, and I guess it's a bit personal for him, but it seems that on Twitter, he'd maintained a list of emulator programmers who are on Twitter. And some of them are big, some of them are quite small. And some strange person out there has actually systematically gone through that list and used that list, because it's a public Twitter list, to harass and then actually dox a lot of these emulator programmers. Now, I have zero idea of why this occurred, and I would always argue you never have a right to harass people, so there's no logic anyway in what you're doing. But it has really hit this person really, really hard, byuu, and to the point where like people in the community are trying to keep him like in the community, and it's like, it's not your fault, but he blames himself so much for this situation occurring that he just wants to, kind of exit the whole scene completely because of this, which is like an incredible shame. And it's sad that he, feels so bad about what had happened. And, hopefully eventually he looks to come back in the scene, but yeah, like, it's a real shame, because I think he was, really having some promising results in the Nintendo 64 space, and he's a real credit to the community. There's been articles written about him on Ars Technica and lots of other outlets, and it's a real shame, and it's someone I don't think is well known, but he probably should be, because I think he's had a huge impact to that scene, and making it a lot easier for people to access old games and being able to play them and experience stuff in a modern format, in a very accurate format, rather than a really dodgy emulator that you normally get. So yeah, just wanted to kind of call that out.
Yeah, bloody arseholes, I tell you.